Hey y'all, what's up? Sorry it's late. Got our candle right here. It's not working. Well, we have our candle right here in the corner. We're doing our little mood. We got a drink. This is my What a Wonderful Nightmare cup from Nightmare Before Christmas. I got it from Gordman's. It just has apple juice in it. I haven't been feeling the greatest today. Sorry, it looks cut. Before we get into the next few chapters, I'm going to read Of Somebody's Daughter by David Bell. I got this the other day and completely forgot about it. This is from our Callisto Publishers Company Club. Why do I always do that? Okay, but first off, we have Cultivating Calm and Anxiety Journal. Creative prompts and practical strategies, which is perfect because the reason I'm coming to you right now is because I just woke up at 6 p.m. Didn't have a great night, had to take an anxiety pill, and my anxiety pills actually do numbers on sleep, so that would have come in handy quite a bit. Next, this one is for my friend. This is Easy Dog Food Recipes by Scott Shanahan. It's 60 healthy dishes to feed your pet safely. So this is just a different things. Sweet potato cod, blueberry yogurt cubes. These are things that are going to kill them. Put it that way. It even has a portion control chart for the size dog you have, what your dog's bowl should consist of, all that fun stuff. Next, I got the Easy Italian Cookbook with 100 quick and authentic recipes by Paulette Licitra, and I'm living for it. I love Italian food. Italian food is my favorite thing in the world, aside from Chinese, of course. But I got this for myself. It looks really interesting. And then I got this cute little thing for the kiddo, and I think she's going to love it. It's called Ocean Life. It's a coloring and activity book for kids. Over 50 word searches, dots to dots, mazes, and more. And it looks like this. So those were all free. This one was $9. This one was $17. This one was $15, and the journal for anxiety was $14. So I saved quite a bit of money, like always. But now that we did that, let's go ahead and relax, enjoy, do what we can, get comfy. I'm in my Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare Before Christmas. Just, it's my thing. Oh, so tired. So I'm going to scooch you guys back a little bit. We're going to get the candle in the thing. Hopefully it doesn't fall. And let's continue on. We are on, if you want to follow along with us, we are on chapter 18 on page 81. And give me 1 second to catch my breath and we will get on with it. Alright, chapter 18, 9:41 p.m. My God, Erica. Michael kneeled down on the floor next to Tolliver, whose body was rigid, his face etched with pain. Oh my. Oh my, oh my. Just breathe. Breathe. Tolliver started huffing, his cheeks puffing out as he took in and let out air like a locomotive engine. That hurt. You should be okay. It does hurt, but it shouldn't have caused you any permanent damage. Michael leaned over and looked at the spot on Tolliver's pant leg where Erica had placed the gun and zapped him. I don't see anything there. Oh my, he said again. Michael looked back over his shoulder at Erica, who stood Behind him, her face a mixture of confusion and sadness. She still held the stun gun in her right hand, and Michael regarded it the way he would an angry, snarling dog. Could you put that away? Back in your pocket? She looked down at her hand. It appeared she didn't recognize herself, as though the hand and the stun gun belonged to someone else. Something detached from her own body and mind. She finally moved and slid it back into her pocket. I'm sorry, Michael, she said. I don't know what to do. He's not answering our questions. He's not helping us. And time is a-wasting. I don't know where she is. I don't. His voice regaining strength. Why don't you go get him some water, Erica, and maybe a pillow to put under his head, or a cold washcloth? I didn't know what else to do. Just go get those things, please. Erica moved slowly, her feet shuffling over the carpet. The use of the stun gun seemed to have taken something out of her. Are you listening? You're so cute. Sorry. Siren's over here. She's just listening away. Maybe it served as the last powerful act of Alande, a moment when she was able to summon a final reserve of energy and lash out at anyone. Or maybe the violence of her action disturbed her so much, as it disturbed Michael, that she couldn't process it. Michael saw the way she looked at her hand in the stun gun, the sense of dislocation and detachment. None of it felt real. None of it. When Erica was gone, Michael placed his hand behind Tolliver's head and helped him to a sitting position. Color started to return to the man's face, and Michael felt relieved he hadn't suffered a heart attack or stroke when the stun gun jolted his body. Better? Yes, I think so. From the kitchen, Michael heard the sound of a cabinet opening, followed by water running out of the tap. He took that chance to lean in close to Tolliver and speak in a low voice. What were you going to say before she did that to you? You started to say something about the past few days. Tolliver reached down and gently rubbed his thigh where the gun had made contact with his body. I don't know. This isn't worth it. Just tell me. A child is missing. A 9-year-old child. That's why I'm here, to help find this girl. That's it. It's urgent. She's been gone all day, and that's not good. If you might know something, please share it with me. She won't do anything else. I promise. I won't let her. Tolliver considered Michael, giving him a sideways glance. The tap shut off in the kitchen, but Erica didn't reappear. Felicity has missed her last 3 rehearsals. It's summer, I know, but she's never missed so much before. I called the house after the second missed one, and Erica said Felicity wasn't feeling well. But then she was out with Erica this morning, walking the dog in the park, where no one saw the girl. Are you saying... Michael? I told the police this. Michael, come see this. Michael stood up, leaving Tolliver sitting on the floor. But the music teacher reached up and grabbed Michael's arm. I'm worried about Felicity, about the environment she's in. Michael pulled free and went to find Erica. Okay, so I don't know what you guys are thinking, but my thought is that she's missed 3 rehearsals, she hasn't been seen, and that Erica's scared that she's going to get in trouble because they didn't see Felicity with her in the park. So I guess my thing is Felicity even still alive, or did she kill her and she's losing herself and her thoughts? Chapter 19. 9:45 p.m. The room grew silent, awkwardly so. Even the detectives, cops who had probably seen a little bit of everything in their careers and who were there because of a child had disappeared, seemed not to know what to say or do in the face of Angela's discomfort. I don't think I understand any of this, Angela said. She thought back over the past year, over the months in which, yes, things in their marriage hadn't always been roses and sunshine. But never once did she think they would split up or look elsewhere. They'd planned their vacation to Georgia for that very reason, to get away, to achieve a sense of renewal. Both of them looked forward to it, or so she thought. She shook her head, aware that the police officers were still there, considering her. No, she said to herself, no doubt. Michael looked forward to the trip, too. They talked about it, made plans together, quiet dinners, walks on the beach, time alone for an evening drink, time after that to try to conceive a child. No, Michael was all in. She knew him too well, knew how honest he was. When she first met him, almost 10 years ago, she had admired how forthright he was about his marriage to Erica. He said they met when they were young, very quickly after college. A mistake, Michael told her. A starter marriage, an attempt to feel like grown-ups when they really weren't. He never ducked the blame with her, never tried to shift things by demonizing Erica. He had said they weren't compatible after all, that they were so temperamentally different, a long-term relationship wouldn't end up working. Too much drama, not enough stability and reliability. Erica zigzagged through the world, contemplating career changes, wanting to move constantly, never settling on one thing for very long, whereas Michael wanted life to go in a straight line. He developed goals and pursued them. He hated distractions and detours. She also came to know over the years that Michael seemed to want to pretend the marriage to Erica never happened. Angela understood why he acted that way. The world saw him as competent, level-headed, intelligent. The marriage to Erica failed to jibe with the way others, his family, his work associates, their friends, saw him. Angela didn't care about the marriage most of the time, hadn't thought about it much since her ill-fated trip to Erica's workplace. But Michael was clearly still thinking of it to some extent. Was that why he wanted to help Erica now? Angela sighed. Whatever struggles they worked through, they'd always been honest with each other. Sorry, guys. I'm having an issue with my breathing, and I don't know where my inhaler is. And it's super cold out today. Siren's still listening. Serenity! Are you listening to the story? You're so cute. Okay. But she looked at the computer screen, the photo of Michael and Erica. Had they really been as honest as she thought? And hadn't she kept her own secrets, not telling him about her run-in with Erica? Relief came for all of them when Twitchell's phone rang. He stood up, his stomach bumping against the edge of the desk. He eased himself around Angela and went out into the hallway, the phone pressed to his ear. Angela sat in the vacated chair, letting it take her weight while she leaned back as far as it would go. Griffin remained standing, and she offered Angela a sympathetic smile, one that looked much more real and authentic than the one she delivered on the porch. Is everything okay in your marriage? Any changes in your husband's behavior lately? Besides different passwords and a photo of him and his ex-wife? No. She picked at a loose thread on her jeans. That's just it. Michael never changes. He really doesn't. He's rock steady. We started dating just a few months after he left Erica, just about a month after the divorce was final. Michael never really played the field, never cheated on me or her. He's a serial monogamous. He works hard for his dad's company. His company now. He never colors outside the lines. Maybe that's got boring for him. Angela shook her head. No, he's fun too. He and I laugh all the time. This past winter, he surprised me with a weekend in St. Thomas. He arranged it all. Champagne in the room, flowers. Angela smiled at the memory. We had a good time, I promise. She pointed at the computer screen. This just doesn't like him. And you're happy with everything? I am. We both work too much. We sometimes go in opposite directions. She felt comfortable opening up to the female detective. We're trying to have a child. We've been trying for a while. It's kind of been a struggle. Griffin nodded, her lips pursed in sympathy, but then the detective's eyes roamed over Angela's head and studied the photos hanging on the wall behind her. Angela spun around in the chair, trying to see what could have caught Griffin's attention. The detective came closer, her index finger raised as she looked at the photos. Is it? What? Lynn Fraser? And the picture there with your husband? I heard from Erica they were related. Yes, she's Michael's sister. Do you know her? Not personally. I'm sorry. I know her band, Lantern Black. Before today, I knew Lynn Fraser from Lantern Black was from Cottonsville, but I didn't make the connection until Erica told me. Michael's sister is a rock star. I thought they were going to be the next Arcade Fire or My Morning Jacket, but then they broke up out of the blue. What does she do now, if you don't mind me asking? I don't mind. The band officially broke up a few years ago. She has a house here in town. She still does session work. Nashville, even LA. She writes songs for other artists. She's been talking about starting a new band or making a solo record, but I'm not sure where she is in that process. I guess she doesn't have to worry about money. Definitely not. She made enough to live on the rest of her life before she was 25. I'm not sure how her dad felt about it. How so? He was a buttoned up businessman, so he didn't really get the rock and roll lifestyle. Michael went into the family business, and Lynn followed her own path. She had a little of the black sheep thing going on. How does she get along with your husband? Griffin asked. Well, I think they were close as kids, especially in high school. Michael has told me about the times they spent talking late at night, the way they tried to help each other navigate life with their parents. We don't see her as much as we should now, but they talk pretty regularly. Text or phone call. Their dad died suddenly last year, so that brought them closer. Unfortunately, when you grieve with someone, you feel a tighter bond with them. How do you get along with her? We get along well. She had a health crisis about 5 years ago, cervical cancer. The whole family rallied around her, and she was very appreciative of what we all did for her. We're family, so of course we do it. But again, that's one of those things that makes people closer. I got to know her well when she was recovering from surgery. It's funny. What is? Well, when she was recovering, the two of us got closer in a way we hadn't before. We just talked more, let down our guard a little bit. She was sick and vulnerable, so maybe that helped. Lynn told me that she didn't really feel comfortable with me when I first started dating Michael. I guess she and Erica got along pretty well. They were both outspoken. You hear it too? They were both the outspoken ones in the family, and Lynn saw me as a little uptight. I guess I could come off that way. I think about my career a lot. That's not a bad thing, Griffin said. No, and she certainly thought about her career too, but I sell pharmaceuticals, and she's an artist. You hear it? I know. By the way, guys, this is her favorite spot right there. That's her favorite spot on that pink pillow. Okay, sorry. Whew. Goodness, 1 second. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. I see. Anyway, I appreciate that honesty. We got over a hump then, she and I. Angela nodded. I like her. She's really smart and loyal to her family. She must be. Loyal, that is. She could live anywhere, but she's here in Cottonsville. The detective smiled. Sorry, I'm being gossipy. Griffin continued to study the wall of photos. She raised her index finger. So, this childhood photo shows 3 kids, but none of the others do. Why is that? Angela looked at the photo again. It showed the 3 kids at their small house on Craven's Lake. Michael stood in front, his hair wet, his smile big and cheesy. His 2 sisters stood on either side of him, both of them in bathing suits and dripping water. Their skin was glowing from the sun, their eyes dancing with happiness and light. Michael always spoke of those times at the lake almost reverently, as if the house and the water possessed a magic that had evaporated from the world after Robin's death. Angela knew the photo was taken just a couple of weeks before Robin died. She sometimes wondered if the photo should be put away instead of serving as a constant reminder of the tragedy that crushed them all. But Angela deferred to Michael. He lived with the photo there. He lived with the memories, the good and the bad. The family rarely went to the lake anymore, and Angela almost wished she could have participated in the happy times they all shared there, even though it was long before she met Michael. It felt like a part of his life she would never fully grasp. It belonged to the immediate family, especially Michael and Lynn. Michael and Lynn had another sister, Robin. She died in an accident on a swing set when they were kids. She fell off the very top. Oh. Griffin lifted her hand to her chest, the corners of her mouth turning down. I'd never heard that. She didn't talk about it in interviews or anything. It must be awful for all of them. It is. Michael's mom never really talks about it either. Michael has never said too much, but I know he feels guilty. He was watching Robin that day. He's the oldest. Angela scratched the side of her face. Both Michael and Lynn went to therapy for it after the accident. Lynn saw it happen, but they were both shaken. Michael still occasionally has nightmares about it. He won't really admit what they're about, but I know. He feels guilty. He says their name in his sleep sometimes. Griffin made a low grunting sound in her throat, another expression of sympathy and concern. Angela saw something else cross the detective's face, a look that suggested a deeper emotion she didn't give voice to. Angela almost asked her about it, but held her tongue. I sometimes wonder if they both became such high achievers to try to ease their parents' pain, Angela said. That the two of them were doing the work of three and making up for Robin's loss. That's quite a burden to carry. The house they grew up in, the one where Robin died, came up for sale about 4 months ago. His family moved away from there not long after Robin died, and who knows how many times it's sold since then. I swear Michael seriously talked about buying it just so he could have it torn down. He couldn't stand thinking about that house and what happened there. It's 5 miles away from here, so it's kind of a permanent reminder, even after all these years. You know, you ask why Lynn lives here. I think both of them also feel a certain sense of responsibility for their parents. Now it's just their mom, but they are both so deeply affected by the loss of their child that Michael and Lynn want to, I don't know, just be there for their mom, be around her. Griffin nodded, the sympathy on her face clear and vivid. I'm not sure, Detective, but I think Lynn, Michael's sister, might have brought that childhood home. She talked about buying it, and she has the money. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. That was so gross. Yes, I know. Yeah, stop. Lie down. That was really gross. But you don't know if she did? No, I don't. She might have and kept it from the rest of us. I'm sure she'd think her mother would worry about her if she bought it. You know, that sounds that she hasn't moved on. Has she? Could anybody? The house sold, but I don't know who bought it. If Lynn had bought it, she'd have torn it down too. She wouldn't want her mother to know that house existed anymore. I guess it is the kind of place that would be loaded with memories, good and awful. I've always hoped the family would go back to the lake more, maybe create some new memories. Really, only Lynn goes now. If we have a child, I'd like to bring her there, or him. Maybe that will get the family back there, a child. Can I ask you something? I hate to be harsh. Do you think this kid, Felicity, is still alive? I mean, when she's been gone so long, and they say the longer a child is gone, until I see otherwise, it's all about bringing the kid home safe. That's all I can think about. I saw a video online, the one where she's singing. Angela felt the tears pushing against her eyes again. Why did she feel so much emotion for a child she didn't know? Did everyone feel that way over a missing child? It's heartbreaking. I agree, completely. Twitchell came back into the room. He nodded at Angela, but then turned to Griffin. That was the boss. If we're finished here, we need to get moving. I think we are, Griffin said, knowing that the boss meant the chief of detectives, Lois Reddick. You know, Erica told Michael that her daughter, Felicity, looked like Robin. That's how she tried to convince him that she is his daughter. And you think that's why he went? Griffin asked. Guilt? And a sense of duty. If there's a chance that kid really is his, if there's a chance he can help, Michael would have a hard time saying no. He'd have a hard time saying no even if the kid wasn't his. He cares about children. He really does. That's why it's been so tough that we haven't had one yet. And maybe because of Robin, when a child is in harm's way, it really gets to him. You should keep calling him. And if you hear from him or if anything else happens, let us know, okay? Do you think Michael's in danger? Angela asked. The two detectives exchanged a look again. Then Griffin said, We're really not sure what we're dealing with yet. That means anything's possible. Okay, so I guess my thing is I'm starting to wonder if maybe Lynn's part of it, since she was so close with Erica. And she saw the way Erica was being to Felicity. She bought the house and is holding Felicity in captivity away from Erica for the safety. But or she lost her shit and she thought she was seeing Robin and Felicity. Because I don't know, my mind's like in overdrive right now. Chapter 20. 9:47 p.m. Michael followed the sound of Erica's voice. He went down a short hallway past a bathroom with pale blue tile to a bedroom on the right. Erica stood at her refinished antique dresser with both hands full of clothing. What's wrong? Will you look at this? She asked, holding the clothes out toward Michael. It took him a moment to understand what she was showing him. Clothes? Who cared? But then he saw that the clothes were for a young girl. A yellow dress, a hoodie, socks, and shorts. What? Michael's mouth went dry. The feeling came over him that usually preceded throwing up. Do they look like Felicity's things? No, that's not the point. Why does he have them here? Michael, why does a grown man have kid things in his house? Whether they're Felicity's or not, it's weird. Why were you back here? We want to get moving. I'm looking around, trying to find evidence, anything. Maybe he has a kid, a daughter, or some other relative who stays with him. Not that I've ever heard of, Michael. Admit, this is bizarre. He knew accidents could happen to anyone. Michael knew they couldn't be avoided, but the thought of someone intentionally harming a child, of purposefully bringing the pain his family felt over Robin to someone, took Michael from cold fear to white-hot anger. His hand darted out and worked its way into the pocket of Erica's coat. Michael? He brought out the stun gun, felt the unfamiliar hard grip in his hand. He retraced his steps to the front of the house where he expected to find Tolliver waiting. Instead, he saw the man's back disappearing through the front door. No, Michael said. Michael crossed the living room in just a few strides. He caught up to Tolliver on the front porch, taking hold of the man from behind by grabbing a handful of his shirt. Michael forced Tolliver to the ground, landing on top of him. Tolliver made a whooshing sound as the air went out of his body. Just stop. Stop right there. Tolliver huffed and puffed again, and Michael's own breathing grew heavy from the quick run he'd made through the house as well as the adrenaline. He looked at the stun gun in his hand, wondering if he really would have had the guts to use it. He was glad he hadn't found out. Why are there a little girl's clothes in the dresser back there? Why do they belong to? Who do they belong to? Huh? Who? Felicity? Is that why you ran away? No. Are you crazy? Erica came out of the house and crossed the lawn to the two men. She stood with her hands on her hips, looking down at them to where Michael kept Tolliver in place by resting his knee against the teacher's body. They belong to my niece. She comes and stays with me sometimes. My sister comes with her. They left some stuff here. Michael looked back at Erica, seeking confirmation. He's never mentioned a niece. Her picture's on my refrigerator, for God's sake. Michael eased off, relieving the pressure he'd been applying to Tolliver's body. But he didn't back up so far that the man could stand, and Michael still held the stun gun, keeping it visible as a silent threat against Tolliver. What do you know? Tell us something. Anything. Erica came up next to them. She started to reach for the stun gun, but Michael pulled it away. He didn't want to see it used again. Not yet. But something seemed off about the man. Why did he run? When they were in the other room, he could have dialed 911 and had the police come. Instead, he'd bolted. We're waiting, Michael said. Tolliver's eyes were wide in the dark night, the whites visible. He looked pathetic and disheveled, and Michael wanted nothing more than to be finished with him. You shouldn't be bothering me. I'm not telling you anything else without a lawyer. Or the cops. You can't be doing this to me. Are you sure you want it that way? Yes, you're both crazy. Fine, let's go to the cops. We'll bring those clothes. Maybe they'll want to come and search here this time. No, wait, you're really going to make me go? Michael stood up, the stun gun still in his hand. Car's right there. I'm going to deliver you in person instead of waiting for them, or risking you running away again. You can ride up front with me. I don't know if I buy that whole story about him having a niece. Ironically, his niece is the same age and same size as Felicity. It could be possible, but then again, it could be somebody else's kid. And he could have like a fetish. Okay. She's sleeping. I'm not. In 1 second. Okay. Chapter 21, 9:55 p.m. Twitchell drove while Griffin sat in the passenger seat, observing her partner He always kept two hands on the wheel, like a student driver, and his glasses, oversized and out of date, perched quickly on his face. "What do you make of all that?" she asked. They had worked together for just over a year, and she respected him. He affected an air of cluelessness at times, a goofy dad type who acted as though he couldn't tell the difference between Beyonce and Barry Manilow. But Griffin knew it was all an act, a way of lulling suspects into a false sense of security and convincing witnesses and victims that he meant no harm and could be trusted. It worked every time. She liked to pick his brain, to ask open-ended questions about their work, and sit back while he offered his opinions. "We're not the leads," he said. "I'm just a water boy on this one." "Come on, what do you think?" "I think when Michael Fraser comes home, he's going to get an earful about his social media accounts." "And his change passwords?" "Yep." "What would Peg say if you did that?" Griffin asked, teasing her partner. "I wouldn't do it. I like to breathe too much." He sighed and shook his head. "This is every man's worst nightmare." "What is?" "A former girlfriend or wife showing up and saying, 'Happy Father's Day.' That's bad. Really bad. A kid your wife didn't know about? Yikes." They left the neighborhood where the Frasers lived. The night was dark, the oncoming headlights glowing in their faces. Twitchell turned the radio to the Reds game, the comforting voices of the announcers, the soft cheers of the crowd providing a sense of ease and warmth, even as they investigated a horrible crime. "Still," Twitchell said, removing his left hand for just a moment to scratch his scalp, "there's something not right there." Griffin could tell he was warming up, putting his thoughts together and getting ready to share them. Michael Fraser has had some interest and maybe even some contact with his ex-wife that his current wife doesn't know about. Hell, maybe he knew about the kid already. Maybe he's been talking to her all along. "That could really set Angela off, couldn't it?" Griffin said, finding out he was still talking to his ex-wife. She already went up there and confronted her once before. "So you think she did more than that?" Twitchell said. "Maybe she really crossed the line and harmed this child." "We checked her out. No record, no violent history. Besides getting in the face of her husband's ex-wife, and then not telling her husband about it, not good, right?" "Yeah, right. And just because somebody doesn't have a record doesn't mean they wouldn't commit a crime. There has to be a first time for everything." Griffin looked out the window, took in the lights of the passing houses. She pictured the missing girl, Felicity Fraser. So pretty, so innocent. Something stirred inside her, a protective instinct. She wanted to wrap Felicity in a protective hug and shield her from whatever pain or fear was being inflicted on her. She felt like a mama bear, could imagine fangs and claws springing from her body. She knew she'd have no problem slashing and lashing at someone who would hurt a child. She worried she'd never get the chance to do the same thing with a child of her own. "I can tell you're feeling all melancholy or whatever," Twitchell said. She smiled despite her mood. He knew her too well. "Melancholy? You're only 31. You can get married again and still have time for kids. Just because you married a jerk the first time doesn't mean you're doomed to a life alone." "Thanks, Dr. Phil." But she appreciated his concern. It had been a rough time in her personal life, a divorce from her husband, John, a free-floating examination of where she was in her life, both personally and professionally. A third of a life crisis, is that what it was? I guess plenty of people have a case of heartbreak. I'm not the only one. But it did make her empathize with Erica Fraser more than she wanted to. How could she not? Michael Fraser left her, possibly when she was pregnant. He may not have known about the pregnancy, but Michael appeared to be living pretty well with his second wife, glorious mini mansion, and successful family business. Was she wrong to feel a measure of solidarity with the woman left behind? But what about Angela Fraser? Wasn't she getting blindsided too? Or had she taken matters into her own hands? She recalled what Angela said about her husband. He'd modestly stopped talking about the marriage to Erica, sometimes not even admitting it happened. Was that who she would be for John? The person from his past he pretended didn't exist? And don't forget, Angela Fraser went up there and got into it with the ex-wife and never told her husband. So he's not the only one keeping a secret. That's different. It is? Sure, I can tell the kind of woman Angela Fraser is. She's strong and independent. She doesn't want to come off like a needy little wife, but she's still going to get her back up if she thinks someone is encroaching on her territory, especially an ex-wife. "So you do the same thing?" Twitchell asked, obviously baiting her. "I'm a cop. I'd shoot her." Twitchell laughed and rolled his eyes, but then he quickly grew serious as the conversation turned back to the case. Reddick says they still don't have anything. No sign of the kid. The volunteers knocked off when it got dark, but no one found anything useful. They're going to get back to it again tomorrow, as soon as the sun rises. Shit, Griffin said. Her frustration manifested itself as a dull ache behind her left eyeball. A kid, just gone, and the sand is running out of the hourglass. You know, I can understand just about everything else that these creeps do. The drugs, the murders, or over even minor beefs, the stealing, but can they just leave the kids out of it? Really? I hear you. I remember when my girls were that age. It makes me sick to look at that kid's picture and think about where she might be, or what might be being done to her. Have we given up on the possibility she ran away? She'd been fighting with her mom. It's possible, of course, but no one saw her anywhere, not even in the park. It seems more likely Erica Fraser did something to her before they were at the park than that the kid ran away. 9-year-olds run off, but it's on the rare side. They might pack their teddy bear in a suitcase and walk up the street for an hour. Real runaways are usually teens. They stopped at her light, and he adjusted his bulk in the driver's seat. He reached down and picked up his phone. A witness did come in and report that she saw Erica Fraser having lunch with an older woman about 6 months ago. They appeared to be having a heated argument. Really? Maybe they were just disagreeing over who was picking up the check. No idea who the woman was, of course. Nope, that would be too easy. And no real description except to say the woman was older and well-dressed. But the witness saw Erica on the news and remembered. The light changed as Twitchell handed his phone to Griffin. The driver of the car behind them grew quickly impatient and honked twice. Twitchell shook his head. This is the only time I miss driving a marked car. He pointed to the phone screen and accelerated forward. We're going to talk to someone else, a woman who lived next door to the happy couple when they were married. The Frasers? The Frasers, Part 1. Reddick wants us to keep looking into Erica and to follow this marriage thread a little longer. Erica hasn't resurfaced? Negative. So her kid's missing, but she decides to pick up her ex-husband and strike out on her own, Griffin said. It's weird. There's a car sitting on her house in case she or the kid or anybody else comes back. The phones? What about a ransom call? No landline, and no calls of any kind yet. Anywhere. It's getting late, but we can still go see this woman, the former neighbor. Apparently, she's eager to talk to us. Oh man, I just dropped the book. 1 second. Sorry, I totally got mad at the last part. Because I'm seriously thinking, I know what's going on. A well-dressed older woman. And they were arguing but having lunch. I'm wondering if it's Lynn. She's well-dressed. She's wealthy. But I dropped the book when I got mad. I'm sorry. Are you laughing over there? Okay. Chapter 22. 10:58 p.m. Twitchell and Griffin drove more than an hour back into Davenport County and headed for the east side of Tredale, where Michael and Erica lived when they were first married. Back then, 1 decade earlier, it had been a transitional area, a place where immigrants settled at the beginning of the 20th century, working in the tobacco processing factories and warehouses before moving to the suburbs, along with the jobs and the better schools. The Frasers Part 1, Twitchell said again, but his partner cut him off. Are we always going to refer to them this way? I'm trying to be clear, he said, his face serious. Anyway, Michael and Erica must have been real pioneers moving into this area before it had really made the turn to a respectable neighborhood. It's a far cry from that mini mansion he's living in. Now this area is nothing but bars and shops for hipsters. Back then, you took your life in your hands coming here. I know, I was in college then, Griffin said, smiling as she needled her partner. Thanks for reminding me. He found their address, a red brick apartment building with 4 units, each of them fronted by a wrought iron balcony. Lights glowed from 3 of the units, and young people walked up and down the sidewalks in pairs and in groups, heading for the crop of brew pubs and farm-to-table restaurants that had sprung up over the past 5 years. Look at this. I think you're the only member of your generation who doesn't have a beard or a tattoo. I'm afraid of needles, and I can't grow a beard, yet. By the way, what was all that about Michael Fraser's sister? Something about a band? You didn't know? She was a member of Lantern Black, a band that did pretty well. She played guitar, wrote some of the songs. That's how you make the big money, writing the songs. One of the songs was in a movie, I think. She was young, maybe 20, when they started. They broke up a few years back, and I guess she hasn't been doing much in the record industry since then. Lantern what? Lantern Black. They're considered indie rock, like Arcade Fire or the Decemberists. Those are really bands. I've always been a Guns N' Roses kind of guy myself. Right though. How enlightened. They climbed the steps to the front of the building, and Twitchell searched for the right doorbell. He pushed one with the name Helen Winningham written in neat handwriting next to it. It took a moment before they were buzzed in. On the second floor landing, Helen greeted them. She was an elderly woman, Griffin guessed close to 80, in a lavender housecoat and slippers. Her apartment smelled like oregano, and the TV in the corner played a vintage game show, Joker's Wild, with the sound off. The host, a neatly coiffed and perfectly tanned relic from another era. Can I offer either of you something? She asked. We're fine. Mind if we sit? Please. Sorry it's so late. We've been doing a lot of running around, and we're trying to learn anything we can about the case while it's fresh in people's minds. I don't mind the hour. I go to bed when I want and wake up when I want. I sleep less than ever. Helen's voice was scratchy and high, her frame so slender a strong wind could have blown her over. But she appeared to be steady on her feet, and she sank into a recliner on the far side of the room with none of the halting, uncertain motions of an elderly person plagued by aches and pains. Griffin looked around. She saw no family photos, no evidence of a husband, children, or grandchildren. Helen appeared to be a lifelong single person, an old maid as her grandfather would have put it. Griffin tried to convince herself that living out her days alone in a tiny apartment while young people loved, drank, and carried on outside wasn't such a bad way to go. Maybe Helen had a John in her past, a guy she spent a brief amount of time with and then had to let him go. Stop it, she told herself. Twitchell was right. She was still young, still had lots of time. Why did you call us Miss Winningham? Twitchell asked. Miss Winningham? But just call me Helen. I called you because I saw Erica Fraser on the news. She reached up and patted her short gray hair. Nothing appeared to be out of place. And I remember her very well from when she lived here, right next door to me. She pointed at the wall. I spent a lot of time with her, sort of like a surrogate mother. Well, maybe a surrogate grandmother. Was she married at the time? Griffin asked. Of course, to Michael. I knew him too, but not as well. So what did you want to tell us? Twitchell asked. You know, I imagine that Erica's daughter is missing, and we're all very concerned about that. Griffin saw a well-worn Bible on top of the coffee table, a place marked with a red tassel. Next to it sat a coffee mug half full and steaming. I know, Helen said, raising her hand to her chest, her face appropriately horrified. That's why I called. She used to confide in me about her marital problems. What kinds of problems? Well, he worked a lot. I remember that. I guess he worked for a new company, something to do with computers. I got the impression the family had some money, even though Angela and Michael were living down here with me. I think he needed to show he was his own man, establish himself somewhere else before going to the family business. Lord knows the neighborhood didn't look like this back then. They must have been proving some point moving in here. It wasn't long before I could hear them fighting through the wall. My bedroom was next to what was their bedroom. They argued? Oh, yes. More than argued? Was it ever violent? Helen looked shocked by the suggestion. Oh, no, I don't think so. Michael seemed like a gentleman. So they fought, and you said Erica confided in you, Twitchell said. What did she tell you? First we just made casual chit-chat. Then I saw her one day out at the dumpster, and I could tell she'd been crying. So I asked her what was wrong. I'm not the kind to let a woman cry alone, not if I can help it. She looked satisfied with herself. She felt the relationship was coming apart, even though they had only been married a short time, and she wanted to hold on to it, to keep everything together. She could be a little theatrical, I guess, but young women sometimes are. Life sands those rough edges off over time. So what did she do to try and keep everything together? Griffin asked, when she'd been there herself, doing everything in her power to keep a relationship afloat and watching it all go away, no matter what she attempted. Did she tell you? Helen looked a little coy, her lips pressed into a tight line. It's the oldest trick in the book, I guess. She got pregnant, figuring that would keep the man around. Griffin looked over at Twitchell, who looked back, his eyebrows raised and easy to see without the silly glasses. She turned back to Helen. You knew about the pregnancy? I did. It was right before they split up. I remember that well, and I very clearly remember the day I drove her to the hospital. When she had the baby? Felicity? Not the baby. The miscarriage. Right before they split up, she had a miscarriage. What? I don't know what to think. What to do. I don't know. This book is getting ridiculous. Miscarriage? Miss Erica Check had a miscarriage? But how does she have this 9-year-old? He's not the father. Chapter 23. Are you sure about that? Griffin asked. Despite her age, Helen Winningham showed no signs of suffering from any loss of cognitive ability. Her words came smoothly. Her thoughts never stumbled. She seemed to recall a lot of details about Erica Fraser and Griffin's bullshit detector. The one that rang frequently while questioning other witnesses and suspects remained silent in Helen's presence. But she really wanted to be certain about this one. Of course I'm sure. I took her to the doctor. She called me and said she needed help. I went over to her apartment across the hall. I saw the blood. She was having a miscarriage. Helen paused for a moment. She told me she suspected she was pregnant but hadn't been certain until she miscarried. And what happened at the hospital? They took her back and examined her. They confirmed the miscarriage and sent her home. It's not a big health crisis to have one, you know. Plenty of women do. My sister had 3. I suppose it takes a mental toll. Griffin remained silent for a moment. She tried to formulate a response to Helen's casual dismissal of the experience of having a miscarriage. Yeah, it does, she said. She felt Twitchell's eyes on her, examining her. She ignored his look. Did you call her husband and let him know what was going on? She said he was out of town on an important trip and not to bother him. She said she'd tell him once he was home. I made sure she was tucked in over there, and I left her alone. I assume she either called and told him or else told him when he came home. What happened when she told him? Do you know? Helen was shaking her head. She had one leg crossed over the other, exposing a pale blue veined ankle, the skin almost translucent. I don't. About 2 months after that, I stopped seeing Michael around the place much. I thought maybe he'd gone on a business trip again, but he was never there. Never. And I didn't hear from Erica at all. I knocked on the door a few times, but she didn't answer, even though I suspected she was inside. I think he was gone. Then a few weeks after that, I came home one day, and Erica was carrying some boxes out to the car. She thought she was moving out. She and Michael were separated. How did she seem? Griffin asked, her voice lower than she intended. Was she pretty upset? I could tell she was unhappy, but she was putting on a brave face. She was playing it close to the vest. To be honest, she seemed to want to just get out of here, like she couldn't wait to leave all this behind. And that was the last time you saw her? Twitchell asked. It was. I never heard from either one of them. She didn't leave an address, never sent me so much as a Christmas card. Griffin looked at Twitchell, who was nodding his head. She imagined tiny gears and wheels turning inside his skull, the friction generating heat as he decided what to say next. Is that all of it, Helen? He asked. We didn't know about the miscarriage, so I'm glad you told us. But is that everything? Isn't that enough? Why did you think we needed to hear this, Helen? Griffin asked. I just thought the timing was curious, that's all. She has this miscarriage shortly before they split up, and today I turn on the TV and see her, and she's saying she has this child who is missing, and it was mentioned on one of the news channels that the father of the child is believed to be her ex-husband. They didn't say his name, but I know who she was married to back then. I can do the math on that. If the kid's that old, then Michael is the father, right? It's certainly possible, Griffin said. Helen uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. She looked at the 2 detectives with a laser-like stare, as though she wanted to blast them out of their seats with the force of her vision. If they split up a couple of months after the miscarriage, that means she would have had to get pregnant within that time, before Michael left her, right? I guess so, Twitchell said. And isn't that a tight window to do that in? It is, but not impossible. Some women struggle to get pregnant immediately after a miscarriage. Some don't. Some research shows it's safest to get pregnant again within 6 months. They could have tried again right away if they wanted to have children bad enough. Griffin's words felt heavy coming out of her mouth. Like you said, some people think having a child will save the marriage. It's something they try, or talk about trying anyway. She felt Twitchell's eyes on her once again, taking her in, evaluating her as she spoke. She looked over and he looked away. But what about the other thing? Helen asked. What other thing? I don't follow. Sour look of disappointment crossed Helen's face. You don't even know, do you? I bet nobody around here knows anymore. I'm the only one left who does. Despite the heat of the night and the still closed air in Helen's apartment, Griffin felt a chill in her arm. She almost shivered. What do you know, Helen? About that missing baby, she said, pointing in a vague direction. That baby that disappeared just a few blocks away from here. I don't know of any missing baby, Miss Winningham. Are you saying there's another missing child? Helen was shaking her head again, her lips pursed. No, not now. This one disappeared about 10 years ago, right after Erica moved out of the neighborhood, and they never found her as far as I know. And she'd be about the same age as the missing girl you're looking for, the one Erica says is her child. This bitch is delusional! Not Helen. Fucking Erica. Oh my god. She stole someone's baby. Okay, next. I can't. What? I don't get it. How? Oh my gosh. We're almost at part 2, you guys. This is getting ridiculous. Ridiculous. I knew something was up. I knew it didn't sound right. Something just wasn't right. Okay. Chapter 24. 11:15 p.m. Michael drove with Tolliver in the passenger seat. Erica rode in the back, the stun gun in her hand in case their passenger tried to escape. When Tolliver looked over and saw the weapon in Erica's hand, he rolled his eyes. Sorry. Do you think I'm going to jump out of a moving car? I'm not James Bond. Just being careful, Erica said. Michael activated the child safety locks. You know, when we get to the station, you're both going to be in trouble. For barging into my home and using a weapon. For knocking me down and staining my clothes. If you didn't do anything wrong, then they'll let you go. But you ran. That makes you look bad. You're like the cops. You can twist anything. I have an alibi. Michael remembered that the police station was just 15 minutes away. And as they drove, Michael felt a tightness in his chest, an adrenaline-fueled pressure. He looked back over the events of the past couple of hours, the way one ring of his doorbell changed his evening into something he couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams or nightmares. They came to a light, a crossroads. A left turn sent him back toward home, to Angela and the house and the upcoming vacation. Just being gone for such a short time, just being with Erica for a few hours, made home seem even farther away than it was. It would have been so easy to have stayed there, to shut the door on Erica's face. It would still be easy to head that way and leave Erica and Tolliver to their own messes. But how could he? If even the smallest chance existed that Felicity was his child, he couldn't. The photo Erica showed him came back the little blonde girl in front of the barn. She looked so much like Robin. It stabbed his heart, taking him back to the days before her death, before that black cloud settled in above his parents. And then to think of the outrage of someone harming that child, taking her from a park, snatching her away from her mother and everything she ever knew, holding her, God knew where. Something hot twisted in Michael's gut, a searing and frustrated rage against the perpetrator. The feeling consumed him, swelled up inside his stomach like a balloon. He pounded the flat of his hand against the steering wheel, making Tolliver jump. What? Erica asked, his hand stung. Nothing, just frustrated, pissed. I know. I get angry sometimes because that keeps me from crying. As the light changed, Michael's phone rang. He saw Angela's name on the car's display. He needs to talk to her. He knew she called multiple times. You can take it, Michael. Just tell her she's on speaker. Michael thought for a moment, then guided the car to the side of the road, stopping in front of a church. What? Tolliver asked. I'm going to take this. I'll be right back. Erica said to Tolliver. He's afraid to talk to his wife where I can hear. He wants to pretend I don't exist. I'm pretty sure his wife also wishes I didn't exist. I thought we were in a hurry. Have you reconsidered taking me along? No, but I need to take this. I left home in a rush and I don't want anyone worrying about me. I'll say it again. His wife. That's who he means. Michael ignored her and stepped outside into the night's heat. When he closed the door, he placed the phone to his ear and answered. Michael? He heard the relief in Angela's voice, and that brought a new wave of guilt. He'd left her behind, run off like a thief in the night. It's me, yes, he said. He stepped up onto the curb. Through the car's window, he saw Tolliver and Erica illuminating the glow from the dashboard display. I'm sorry I didn't answer sooner, but we were in the middle of some stuff. I'm not even going to ask you what you've been doing, she said, her voice still buoyant. I don't need to know. I just want to know that you're okay. I just wanted to hear from you. The sound of her voice soothed Michael. He remembered when they first started dating and he'd called Angela on the phone. She sounded so happy to hear from him, and that enthusiasm for the sound of his voice and the lift it always brought to him never diminished. Her voice sounded like home, that night and all nights. I'm okay, really. We went and talked to that guy Erica wanted to talk to, and now we're going to the police. The police? Michael, what happened to a quick trip there and a quick trip back? Michael offered no answer. He didn't have a good one. The police just left here, she said, lowering her voice as she grew more guarded. They're looking for Erica. Hell, now they're looking for you. A light breeze kicked up, causing the leaves above his head to make a softening. He checked at the car. He still saw Erica and Tolliver in their places, but Erica cut her eyes in his direction. He saw the plea there. Hurry up. I'll tell her to call them. Why are they looking for her? Is there news? Did the police find Felicity? Nothing like that, but she should be at home. And, Michael, we have things to talk about, you and I. They got onto your computer. I looked at your computer, at least the parts of it we could see. You just let strangers get on there? They're cops, Michael. They're looking for a missing child, and Erica's telling them you're the father. They kind of need to know about you, don't they? So you saw... what did you look at? I saw the wedding picture. Michael didn't know what else to say. He made a sound deep in his throat, something that sounded like... Is that why you changed your email and Facebook passwords? Because you were checking out Erica? I wasn't checking her out. That sounds bad. I was curious about her life, and yes, I changed the password so you wouldn't just get on there and see without context that I've been doing that. Without context? That sounds like you're talking about something on the news. And do I need context to know why you have a picture of you and your ex-wife on your wedding day on your computer now? If you wanted to look at a wedding picture, you could have walked to the foyer and looked at ours. Angela, you can understand being curious about an ex. Curious, yes. You seem obsessed. Don't say that. Do you know they've investigated Erica for endangering her child, the one who is now missing, just a month ago? There's an explanation for that. Michael, listen to yourself. Are you just going to believe whatever she tells you? That the kid is yours? That she didn't hurt the girl or put her in danger? I'm going to go, okay? I don't want to argue about this now. I just need to take care of this. We've wasted enough time, and we need to go. She's using you, Michael. The cops think that, too. They think you might be in danger with her. Are you, Michael? Are you safe? He saw Tolliver in his own living room and Erica reaching out with a stun gun, sending the man to the floor in pain. A child left alone while her mother spent time with a man in a store parking lot. And he saw the face again, the one that looked so much like Robin. I'm okay. I still plan on coming home tonight. Soon. Michael. Michael kicked at a pebble on the ground. Look, we're still going to go away together next week. Are we? Yes, we are. Well, I hope so. We will. Look, he wanted to say more. He tried to think of something he could say that would make everything feel better and normal again, to remind them both of what they shared. But before he could say anything else, Angel said goodbye, so Michael returned to the car. I don't know. He didn't get offensive about it. Chapter 25. Michael climbed back into the car, which was still running. The cool of the air conditioning felt good against his face. Until he returned to the climate-controlled car, he hadn't realized how hot it was and how much he'd sweated just standing outside talking on the phone. Michael said nothing to the two of them but paused for a moment, staring at the glowing dashboard display. Erica had the back window down, the tip of a cigarette glowing in the darkness. The baseball game had ended, and the announcer ran through a list of scores and highlights from games around the country. As a kid, Michael had loved listening to the game, reports from far away. He liked to imagine the other lives progressing in other places, and he felt linked in some way to what was happening in another city, just like he still felt linked to home, even as he continued to drive away from there. Look, Tolliver said next to him, just let me go. You don't need me. I didn't take Felicity, I swear. Shut up, Michael said, the words coming out more harshly than he intended. The schoolteacher grew silent for a moment, his head moving back as though he'd been slapped. Then he said, I'm not the one causing all the problems here. Erica has been... Are you trying to say the mother of a missing child is causing problems for everybody else? Michael asked. Tolliver could tell Michael didn't expect an answer because, for a change, he remained silent. Thank you, Michael, Erica said, her voice close to his ear, even though she sat in the back seat. You need to check in with the police, too, he said, his voice still sharp. Do you know the cops were just at my house hassling Angela? They're looking for you, so it's a good thing we're heading there. How do you know they don't have some important piece of news to share with you? Did they say they did? No, I guess not. Still, I've been checking my phone, and while you were out there talking to your wife, I texted the lead detective on the case, Detective Phillips, and told him I was fine. Yeah, shouldn't you be home waiting for Felicity to come back? I mean, what if she did and you weren't there? Erica grew silent and thoughtful for a moment. The soft whoosh of the air conditioning filled the car's cabin, and the baseball announcer's voice gave way to someone selling mattresses at an amazingly low price. His voice was shrill, ear-splittingly so. The police are doing their job, she said, her voice low. And I've been at the house or the police station all day. Don't you think I've thought of all of this? They're at the house, the cops. They're watching everything, even my email. Her words came out short and sharp, like little jabs at Tolliver and anyone else who might question her. I made a decision late this afternoon. I wasn't just going to sit by if I could possibly go out and help my daughter. I wasn't going to sit on my hands. In the faint light, Michael met Erica's eyes in the rearview mirror. They locked, and Erica seemed to be addressing her next words directly to him as she tossed her cigarette out the window. I've sat by before and let things happen that I didn't want to happen. I've let things go before without fighting as much as I could. I'm not going to do that when it comes to my daughter. Michael put the car into drive and prepared to pull into traffic, but before he did, the run of inane commercials slipped into a news break, the announcer's voice deep and serious. Officials in Davenport County have suspected the search for 9-year-old Felicity Frazier, missing since this morning, from the Tom Haines Municipal Park. Searchers were forced to stop looking for the missing girl due to darkness, but officials expect to resume at first light tomorrow. In national news, Erica took a long, shuddering breath in the back seat. She hates the dark. She's so afraid of the dark. She still sleeps with the light on. She'd hate it if I told anyone that, but she does. Let's go talk to the police. Maybe they can bring some sanity to everything. He accelerated and they resumed their journey. I don't know, man. We got 5 chapters to go until part 2. But I don't know. Okay, chapter 26. 11:25 p.m. Griffin stood outside the car on the sidewalk in front of Helen Winningham's house. Twitchell was inside the vehicle talking to headquarters. They'd already done a quick Google search using their phones and without much trouble located the most basic information about the missing child Helen referred to. Griffin held her phone in her hand, the information still on the screen, and she stared at it, flipping through, hoping to learn something else. The late-night revelers continued to pass her by, even on a weeknight. The neighborhood swelled with young people intent on drinking and partying. She looked up from the screen, watching them pass and listening to their chatty voices. Their carefree smiles and easygoing strides tugged at something in her chest. Every once in a while, when she felt angry, confused, or lonely, she wished she could be leading that life as well, to live in an uncomplicated bubble of friends and good times, to work normal hours and not suffer the emotional hangover of bringing the awful things she saw on the job home with her. She knew it was a fantasy. She knew she would never trade her life and career for one lived by the people passing on the street. And she knew that every person walking by, even the ones smiling with the broadest and partying the hardest, carried something with them. A sick parent, a broken relationship, an existential fear about their own future. But on a night like the one she was experiencing outside Helen Winningham's apartment building, the temptation to be someone else grew so strong she could taste it. Two guys passed, young and bearded. They wore skinny jeans and checked shirts, the sleeves perfectly rolled to the elbows. Both set of eyes trailed to her, gave her a careful up and down as they walked past. One of them smiled, showing a row of gleaming white teeth, and said hello in the friendliest voice possible. Griffin nodded, feeling the little thrill she always felt when a man paid her that kind of attention. She couldn't help the response. Could anybody? Wasn't it innate to feel a pleasant surge when someone flirted? Not yet, she told herself. She wasn't ready for all of that yet. But soon, at the very least, she thought she could stand some physical proximity to a man and not just sitting next to her middle-aged, sweaty partner in a government-issued sedan. She lowered her eyes as the men walked off and examined her phone. The facts about the missing infant were sparse. A 3-month-old child, Stacy Ann Flowers, disappeared from her mother's apartment one evening, 2 months after Erica and Michael Frazier split up, and about 4 months after Erica suffered her miscarriage. Stacy's mother left the child in her crib sleeping while she took the opportunity to shower. When she came out, the baby was gone. Apparently, the mother, Tiffany Flowers, had forgotten to lock the apartment door. A search followed, but there were no good leads, no witnesses to the crime. Tiffany Flowers told police she couldn't imagine who had taken the child, but she did recall seeing a woman following them a few times as she pushed the baby in a stroller through the neighborhood. Tiffany also admitted that the woman could have just been someone going about her business, not intending any harm. There was no way to know. She provided a description of the woman, but it sounded pretty generic. In the 10 years since Stacy disappeared, there had been no leads, no hint of her. Griffin lowered the phone. The sidewalk was clear, the street quieter. She felt the same nagging, twisting sickness as when she contemplated Felicity Frazier's being gone. But somehow it might even be worse. An infant. Either someone murdered the child shortly after taking her, or the child grew up never really knowing who she was, never knowing her mother or the life she was supposed to live. The passenger side window rolled down behind her. She opened the door and slipped inside. What's the story? Twitchell sighed. Still a tragedy. Not close to all's well that ends well. No news at home? Any sign of Erica's boyfriend? Jake Little? He called in to work, told them about Felicity disappearing, said he was distraught, and no one has been able to find him. They're still looking. So he's a person of interest. He has to be. Sure, anyone connected in any way. And is there anything else? She asked. No real leads, lots of silly tips, as you might expect. Still, no one has come forward who saw Felicity in the park with her mom. They do expect to have more volunteers tomorrow when they start up again. And it won't be long before they tail off, before everyone loses interest and goes back to their regular lives. You think? People know what we know, he said, after a certain amount of time. He left the thought unfinished. It didn't need to be said. They both knew what he meant. What did Reddick say about this Stacy Flowers thing? She listened and asked a few questions. I planted the seed. Yeah, but think about what we've got. A mom who isn't keeping in good touch with us, who has decided to run off with her ex-husband instead of sticking close to home while her daughter is missing. Erica Frazier did text Phillips, a short message just to say she was all right, but she didn't say where she was. Great. She miscarried right before this missing child was supposed to have been born, and it's already had Child Protective Services on her butt. And lo and behold, a baby disappeared right near where she lived at the time of the miscarriage. A baby who would be the same age and gender as the child she claims is missing. A child no one saw at the spot she allegedly disappeared from, Twitchell said. Yep. And who hasn't been at her summer music lessons for the last few days before she disappeared? Yeah. The weight of the facts pressed down on Griffin. If she'd been standing up or trying to carry them, her body would have sagged. What do you want to do? Twitchell scratched his head. There's no law that says Erica Frazier has to sit at home and wait for us. She checked in so we can find her if something breaks. But her kid is missing, and she's out. What if Felicity came home and her mom wasn't there? She's looking, maybe. I don't know what I'd do if my kid were missing. I wouldn't want to sit at home and wait like a chump. Wouldn't you go out? We're cops. It's different. Maybe. I can understand her restlessness, her desire to act instead of just waiting for someone else to solve the problem. He drummed his fingers against the steering wheel. When you have a kid, shit, you do anything. Griffin found the sound of his tapping irritating. Really? You too? You're going to throw that? You don't have kids, so you don't understand crap at me? I don't mean it like that, he said, his face flushing. I just meant, I understand. And I know some of that stuff Helen was saying about miscarriage is close to home. I do. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. You sure? I'm sure. Okay. I hear you. But back to Erica Fraser. I kind of get that she's not at home, even if it does make her look a little unusual. Suspicious. Sure, that too. He reached over, adjusted the air conditioning vent, directing it at his large head. I have an idea. What? It's getting late, and we've already had a long day, and we may have more long days to come ahead of us. I think we should head in, touch base with everyone at headquarters, Reddick and Phillips, and then try to get a little sleep, even a few hours, before the craziness starts all over again tomorrow. They're going to need us to be at our best. What do you think? Her partner's words made sense, and she agreed to go along with them. Even though she didn't like the idea, she didn't like it at all. Oh, man, you guys. I need to keep reading. We are almost done. We have 4 chapters to go until part 2. Like, we stopped at chapter 18. And we're at 27. '28's long. Okay, we're almost there. We can do this. Let's just keep on pushing on. Chapter 27, 11:20 p.m. As they drove across Trudale, Michael's mind filled with thoughts of Angela. Their phone conversation lingered, and he can imagine her at home drinking a glass of wine, organizing the kitchen, listening to music while doing paperwork. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard, 11:20, getting late. By this point, she might be in bed, propped up on pillows, reading something for her book club. The glow from the bedside lamp illuminating her light-colored hair. Michael caught another glimpse of Erica in the rearview. She didn't see him looking, but he saw the haunted sadness in her eyes, the loss of a child. He knew what it felt like to lose someone you were supposed to be responsible for. When Robin died, no one said anything directly to him. His parents never placed blame on him. No one in school or the town directly pointed fingers. Everyone who knew Robin knew how adventurous she was, how much she liked to climb and jump and push every boundary. But Michael felt it. Even if it was all in his head, he felt it. Everyone knew he was the oldest child. Everyone knew he could have been watching his sister more closely that day. He told Angela about Robin's death on one of their first dates. They dove into one of those getting to know each other well conversations, the kind that felt essential to any relationship that might make it off the ground. They sat in a coffee shop on a bright afternoon, the rich aroma of roasted beans and toasted bagels filling the air. He told her everything he remembered about that day with a catch in his throat. His eyes meeting hers and seeing the empathy there. She listened so intently, actively, as though hearing his words required as much energy on her part as saying them did on his. When he was finished, she said, "It seems like you blame yourself." "I do. I should have been there. I could have stopped Lynn from having to see that too." Angela shook her head. "You can't. You really can't. It was an accident, and you were a kid too. If she climbed all the time, if she was a daredevil, could you really have stopped her?" He'd heard some variation on those words 1,000 times over the years, but he never believed them as much as when Angela said them. Even when his parents said them, he wasn't sure they registered. He remembered the pride and love in his father's eyes when he looked at Robin, the way he doted on her, the way he called her his Robbie girl. At that point, talking to Angela shortly after he met her, he understood they were moving towards something more serious, possibly something permanent. "Michael?" Erica's voice came from the back seat, cutting through his thoughts. What? That's where it happened. Tom Haines Municipal Park. There on the right. Hi. Are you showing everybody you love me? Are you showing everybody how you love mommy? You can get down? No, you're gonna lay down right there. The kidnapping? Right there? Michael slowed. The park entrance was just off the street, and he wanted to take a look, to get a glimpse of the very place where Felicity disappeared. Michael, don't what? But then he understood. He saw a cluster of bright lights. 3 news vans sat in a line near the entrance, the reporters and crews packing their equipment and rolling up cables. They no doubt done their live updates for the late broadcast and were ready to go home. Michael stopped the car about 50 feet away from them. Get going. They'll see us. Maybe they can tell us something. The latest news. You're just going to walk up and ask them for news on the case? Tolliver asked. Michael shook his head. I'm not. He turned around so he could see Erica. She is. Erica's mouth fell open. She started shaking her head back and forth like the pendulum on a metronome. No, Michael, I've done that all day, and if I walk out there, they're going to be all over me. And you. Are you sure? They're hungry for a story right now. She's right. It's better if you go. But one of the reporters was coming closer, moving toward the car. She squinted in the dark, her heavy makeup visible in the parking lot lights. Miss Fraser, is that you? Oh, shit. Go, Michael. No, she saw you. Let's hear what they have to say. Why doesn't this bitch... I'm sorry, but seriously, why do you not want to talk to the press? Why do you not want to make a statement telling your child that you want to come? This is getting hard. This is hitting home, man. This is... 1 second. I gotta change positions. Hold on. Alright, sorry. I couldn't do that sitting up thing anymore. We're almost done, you guys, and then we'll be on part 2, and I'll probably read like 2 chapters into part 2. Should I move you guys? Probably should move you right there. I really don't want to move anymore. It's so cold right here. Like, what is going on? We've been doing this for like a hot minute too, guys. So, alright. Chapter 28. Keep me out of this, Tolliver said as the reporter approached. He slumped down into his seat. It's just a reporter. I'd rather talk to the police. Damn it, Michael. Now she saw me. Erica pushed open the back door of the SUV and walked around the front, her body passing through the headlights as she approached the reporter. She looked small in their glare, almost like a child, and to some extent he always thought of her that way. Not childish, but childlike, emotional, impulsive, carefree, and high-spirited. Those qualities attracted him to her from the first moment they met during their junior year of college. And, at times, they caused him no end of frustration. School deadlines were missed, bills went unpaid, but at the same time, he valued the way she pulled him out of himself, made sure he didn't take himself too seriously. He had to admit she didn't seem completely the same after 10 years. Yes, the impulsiveness, the rashness were still there and visible in her behavior that night, but Michael also detected a steeliness, a strength below the surface of everything Erica did that made her seem far more mature than the woman he knew a decade earlier. Maybe it was motherhood. Maybe it was 10 years of raising a kid alone. Maybe it was just growing up, the scrapes and scars everyone carried as life smacked them around. What you doing? What you doing? The reporter offered Erica a sympathetic smile and a hug. They talked. The reporter nodded repeatedly as 2 more came closer, sensing they didn't want to miss the story. So, is Felicity really such a great kid? Is she smart and creative and all that? Tolliver nodded. She is. She really is. She's also one of those kids who seem to trail a little sadness along behind them. Some kids are like that. I always chalked it up to being raised by a single mom. I know a lot of kids who are growing up in single-parent homes, and I'm not saying they're all sad. I just got the feeling it was a struggle for Erica. A lonely struggle sometimes. That must have bled over to Felicity. I'm going to sleep, sorry. She could have told me. She could have asked for help. The words came out impulsively through clenched teeth. Michael paused, gathered himself. What would have happened to his life if he'd known Erica was pregnant back then? Would he have left the marriage? He couldn't imagine it, which meant the entire last decade would have played out in significantly different ways. Marriage to Erica, a child, maybe more children. And now Angela. He felt sick just thinking about it. A sour, acidic taste rising in the back of his mouth. Could someone miss what he never had? 9 years. Could a parent make up 9 lost years? He might never get a chance if the girl wasn't found, and the thought of that caused an aching chill to start working its way through his body from his stomach up into his chest. He might never see her, might never know who she was. He stopped himself. He couldn't think that way. He didn't even know whether Felicity was his daughter. He reminded himself not to grieve for someone he never knew. But he could tell he wouldn't be able to stop that. In a way, he already felt like she was his. Some deep-seated paternal drive made him want to reach out and fold the girl in his arms, to protect her and see that she was safe from any harm. He wanted her to be safe. He understood the odds, the urgency. More than that, he wanted Felicity to be his. He wanted a child and hadn't been able to have one, and the world seemed to be offering him that chance, a bizarre, unexpected chance, but an opportunity to be a father nevertheless. He felt that wish with an intensity that surprised him, a palpable ache at the corner or the center of his torso, something that went beyond any conscious understanding and dipped into the primal. Knock it off! Don't chew that. It's expensive. He wanted Felicity to be his daughter. He wanted to fill that gap in his life. As to how he'd fit Felicity into his life with Angela, he'd have to figure that out later. What is she doing now? Tolliver asked. Erica faced 3 reporters and a handful of crew. As she spoke, she gestured with her hands. They didn't appear to be filming her, as the conversation seemed casual and informal, but then Erica started walking back toward Michael's car, and the reporters and their camera operators came with them. What is this? Michael asked, even though he could see what was happening. Erica was bringing the reporters to him. I don't want to do this. Why not? Oh, I see. If you go on TV, all of a sudden everyone will know you're the baby daddy. How else are you going to introduce yourself? As Erica's chauffeur? When Erica came alongside the vehicle, she gestured to Michael to power down the window. He did. I think you should talk to them, she said. Why? Michael asked. He noticed the reporter standing a respectful distance away, close enough to hear but far enough back that they didn't appear to be listening. They think it's a good idea, too. I've talked on camera a few times today. But if you went on and said something, it might bring more attention to the case. Michael spoke in a whisper. Erica, I don't think I have a role here. Your role is doing anything you can to get Felicity back. That's why you came along with me. What are you doing? Are you laying down? Okay. No, I can't. It's not right. Do you want the word to get out that Felicity is in danger? Do you care about finding her? I thought you did. I do, but not this way. I'll sit over here in the dark quietly, Tolliver said, pressing his body against the passenger side door and hunching down in the darkness. If they don't film me, I'll behave. Oh, God. Oh. Erica, this makes me uncomfortable. You know what makes me uncomfortable? Not knowing where my child is, and she's your child too. She stopped back and waved the reporters forward. He's ready. Erica. The reporters and cameras moved closer. The lights went on, blinding Michael for a moment in the darkness. He blinked and rubbed at his eyes. While they adjusted to the glare, he heard a reporter say they were eager to get the footage of him for the next broadcast or maybe a special live update. This will really help draw new attention to Felicity's plight. Michael's heart rate increased. He wanted to drive away to ask for a moment to gather his thoughts before proceeding, but they didn't allow for that. Can you just tell us why you're here and what you want for Felicity? The reporter was still hard to see with the bright lights shining in his face. He managed to get a vague sense of blonde hair and manicured nails holding the microphone. Michael said, I'm here helping Erica because I'm concerned about Felicity. I want to know that she is going to be returned home safely where she belongs. And what would you say to whoever perpetrated this crime? The question stumped Michael. What would he say to that person? How could he even imagine who that person would be? Just let her go. Let her return home. She's a little girl. She's probably scared out of her wits being away from her mom like this. Let her go and let her come back. And how are you related to Felicity? A different reporter asked. I'm not. I mean, this isn't really relevant, is it? You're Felicity's father, right? Her biological father? I'm not sure. Her mother thinks you are, the first reporter said. Could you just say you're concerned about your daughter? I am concerned about her, about Felicity. Because she's your daughter? I'd be concerned no matter what. She's a missing child. We should all be concerned. Michael felt good about that answer. It was the right thing to say, the right sentiment to express, and he hoped it marked the end of the interview. But had he said enough? Had he made enough of an impact? If the person responsible for the crime was watching, would he be moved in any way by what Michael had said? Did he need to say even more? Okay, yes. I'm concerned because she might be my daughter. I don't know yet. Another question came. If you're Felicity's father, why weren't you around this morning? Did you not know she was missing? I didn't. Do the police consider you a suspect? Have you been cleared? Michael could no longer get his answers out in enough time. The questions rolled on. What is your relationship to Erica Fraser? Are you married to her? Do you pay child support? Do you think Erica knows where Felicity is? Do you think Felicity's dead? Michael waved his hand in front of the cameras, trying to indicate that the interview was over. When they kept asking him questions, Michael reached for the window button and powered it up, turning the reporter's questions into a distant, muffled noise. The door opened and closed behind Michael as Erica slipped back into the vehicle. Okay, do you want to get us out of here? Erica, that was terrible. I can't believe you led me into that. What are you doing? Siren. Faces flashed across his mind. Angela, his mother and sister, people he worked with, they all might see him, all might wonder what he was doing. You did what you needed to do, the right thing, and I did what I needed to do. What is your discomfort weighed against a child's life, your child's life? I don't know. You don't know what? Whether she's your child? No, I don't. Saw Erica shaking her head in the rearview mirror. Does that matter, Michael? Would you not care about her well-being if you found out she wasn't your child? You put me way out on the ledge there. You dragged me into something I don't fully understand because I don't have all the facts. Fine, Michael, but I told you not to stop at the park. She did. I heard her. Take us to the cops and then you can go home. That's it. I'll release you from it all. He wanted to say more, to tell her how much he wanted Felicity to be his, but Erica stared out the window, not making eye contact with him, and he understood that having a parting of the ways might be best for everyone. He backed up and pulled out, leaving the lights and reporters behind them. Chapter 29, 11:25 p.m. Angela went into their bedroom and sat on the bed, her back supported by several pillows. She sent a text. Are you still awake? It took several minutes for a response to come. The slow reply surprised Angela, since she knew her sister-in-law was a night owl, a vestige of her many nights spent in clubs and bars playing music. Musicians operate on their own timetable, and it was a late one. I am, barely. Are you up for a call? Will you knock it off? Again, a long pause, then the response, sure. She didn't often call Lynn, not just to chat, but Angela needed to talk to someone in Michael's family. She'd almost called his mom, but then realized she'd just freak her out and open herself up to a lot of questions she couldn't answer. But Lynn, she'd be better. Her sister-in-law answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded tired and a little scratchy as though she suffered from a cold. Are you sure this isn't too late? No, it's cool. I was working on a song, a new one, just kind of trying it out. Sorry to interrupt. You sound like you have a cold or something. Allergies, I guess, but I'm up. So, you were working today? Writing and recording? Yeah, long day. I'm not at home. What's up? Lynn sounded somewhat guarded as well, which Angela chalked up to the late hour, and it wasn't unusual for Lynn to sound that way. As a single, unattached person, Lynn was free to come and go as she pleased, and she didn't always let her family know where she was or what she was doing. It wasn't unusual for them to learn that Lynn had left town, flying to Los Angeles or Austin or somewhere else for a session or a meeting related to her music career. It was a far cry from Angela's settled life with Michael. And while Angela would never classify their relationship as intimate, Angela always liked talking to her sister-in-law. She respected her for being a straight shooter, more of an open book than anyone else in the family, and she admired the hell out of the career she had, even if Lantern Black broke up after only a few albums. Her sister-in-law had made it in a difficult field, made her mark on the world in a way few people did. Every once in a while, Angela envied her the travel and the attention, the adoration of people who didn't even know her. She'd been to lunch with her more than once, when fans came by sneaking autographs and selfies. Angela liked those moments of basking in Lynn's reflected glory. I got your flowers before I left. Thanks, it was really sweet. Of course, it's a big anniversary. Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm still here. I'm lucky. And if you want to go out to dinner and celebrate or anything like that, let us know. I'm sure you might have plans with your friends, but we're around this week. Thanks, maybe we can. And did Michael call you? Angela asked. He's been so busy. Oh, I know. He's Mr. Fraser Home Health now, following in Dad's footsteps. It is kind of late, though. Right, well, the reason I'm calling, Angela hesitated. How exactly did one explain this mess to another person? Was it be better to be delicate or to dive right in? Angela tried a little delicacy. So you haven't heard from Michael? She asked. Angela knew Lynn and her husband had a fairly typical brother-sister relationship. They weren't overly close, didn't confide in each other or spend a great deal of time together outside of family functions, but Michael often expressed his admiration for Lynn. His sense that she was the golden child who had achieved in her 20s what most people couldn't achieve in several lifetimes. But a buzzing current of sibling intimacy flowed between them. They shared inside jokes and memories, managed to laugh at and worry about their widowed mother, and never crossed a line into true criticism of each other. How much of that grew out of the mutual loss of their sister, Angela couldn't say. She knew they were both there the day Robin died, that they had both seen their sister's lifeless body on the ground and heard their mother's cries. Lynn saw the accident, saw Robin fall to her death. Angela felt an aching regret between her shoulder blades every time she thought of the awful memory her sister-in-law lived with. Angela assumed without ever asking that Lynn's music was one way of working through what she'd witnessed, the loss that summer day, an outlet to channel everything she saw and felt. You know how Michael is. He doesn't always just call me out of the blue. Only Mom does that. Why? Is something wrong? Angela took a deep breath. Time to dive in. She told Lynn about Erica showing up at the door as well as her claim about Felicity. While she talked, relating the story as concisely and clearly as she could, she recognized how absurd it all sounded to her own ears, and if someone called her with the same facts, she'd doubt them and wonder whether the person telling the tale had lost her mind. When she was finished, the line filled with silence. She checked to see if the call had been dropped and saw it hadn't. Are you there? Yeah, Lynn said, her voice low. I'm processing it all. So Michael went with her? He did. And you let him? Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, God. It's fine, but Angela kicked herself a little for letting him walk out the door. Why didn't she grab him, tackle him, offer an ultimatum? But were marriages supposed to work that way? I know I'm putting you in an odd position here. I never wanted to include my in-laws in anything going on between Michael and me, and I know you and Erica were friends back then. She paused and decided to fish for information. Maybe you still are? Silence again. Angela wanted to know how to take it. Did that mean they were still close, or was Lynn just listening, waiting to decide what to say next? Lynn, did Michael ever say anything to you about this? Do you know if he was still in touch with Erica? I don't think you have anything to worry about. Michael is dedicated to you. You know how he is. Mr. Straight and Narrow. He's not going off the rails. He never has. He didn't choose to be a rock star like me. I know. Angela decided to go all the way to tell the rest of it, even at the risk of upsetting Lynn. Erica showed Michael a picture of the girl, her missing daughter. She told him she looked like Robin. That's part of the reason he went along, I know it. He went along because he sees himself as a good guy. That's all. Lynn, I'm sorry to bring it up. I know you don't like to discuss it. I don't. No, you're not going to bring this up with my mom, are you? You're not going to mention my sister to her. My mom is fragile enough right now about my dad. I wouldn't. I know not to. That's why I called you. Michael's not doing anything wrong. He never does. And I'm not friends with Erica anymore. Not for years. Not since they split up. Music swelled in the background, and then the volume dropped. Was Lynn alone? Look, if I were there in town, I'd come over. We could have a glass of wine and wait this out, but I'm not. Do you think you need me to come back? I can cancel. No, Lynn, I wasn't calling for. Look, it's late. Not too late for family. I hate to think of you sitting there alone while Michael is doing whatever he's doing. No, Lynn, really, thanks. I don't want to interfere with your life. I wanted your insights about Michael and Erica. All of it, and I didn't want to bother your mom with it. Are you okay? Angela took a moment, really assessed herself. She refused to crumple, to let circumstances get the best of her. She was in the house, their house, that mattered. I am. I'm good, really. He'll be back soon. Are you sure? No, it's okay. It's late and you're tired, and I'm going to get off the phone in case Michael calls. She nodded her head even though no one else could see. Thanks, Lynn. If I need anything else, I'll call. Please do. I'm here. That's good to know. Angela hung up. Her sister-in-law's words made her feel marginally better. She was pretty, nonchalant about the whole thing, which is kind of weird. You would think there'd be, more emotion in it. I feel like she knows something. Chapter 30. 11:30 p.m. They continued on, taking the bypass on the south side of Trudale, a loop that skirted some of the city's newer suburbs, allowing drivers to avoid a number of stoplights and intersections. During the small city's brief rush hour, drivers going from one side of town to the other could avoid the congestion. According to Erica, they could cut off the bypass in a few minutes and head into downtown and the police station. A shortcut Michael didn't know about when he lived there. Traffic was light. They passed the usual conglomeration of fast food restaurants and car dealerships, warehouses that manufacture windows for houses, and a large plant that assembled air conditioning units. Long stretches of the bypass remained undeveloped. Cornfields and farmland stretched away, their vast acres dark in the night. Cattle and horses grazed out there as well, a part of some farmers' or ranchers' holdings. The tires hummed against the road, the street lights, evenly spaced, provided regular illumination. Michael regretted every word he'd said in front of the cameras. He knew he'd looked unprepared, unconvincing. What would viewers see when they turned on their televisions? A nervous man, blinking in the bright light, stammering over his answers, and unable to respond to the simplest questions. Are you Felicia's father? Are you a suspect? Was he? And worst of all, what would Angela think if she saw it? She rarely watched the local news, rarely watched TV at all. He hoped that continued. This isn't going to look good if I go to the police, Tulliver said. Why? Michael asked, but he answered more out of obligation than actual curiosity. Think about it. I'm a middle-aged single guy, a music teacher, no less, and there's a child missing. People jump to conclusions. But you already talked to them. They didn't really talk to me, not too long once I provided an alibi. They were hurried, I could tell, overwhelmed a little. Those state budget cuts don't just hurt education. They hurt the cops as well. They're understaffed. They told me not to leave town, that they'd likely be coming back sometime tonight to talk to me more. We're saving them the trip. I've been in trouble before. I got a DUI once, and there's a misdemeanor assault charge from another incident with a friend of mine. Former friend. So, my glass, I don't want more trouble. I've been thinking about this more and more since we saw those reporters. I don't want to be involved in this. Michael looked in the rear view, catching Erica's eyes. How do you think I feel? I just got forced onto television, forced to kind of admit a child was mine when I have no idea if she is or not. No one forced you, Erica said, her voice carrying a sliver of resentment. It felt that way to me. Michael looked ahead, watching the road. Let me ask you something. Is she really missing? No one saw her in the park. She hasn't been to her lessons, Erica. Did something else happen? Tolliver made a low noise in his throat, a reaction to Michael's pointed question. Erica remained silent for a long time, the tires and the passing lights the only accompaniment. Finally, she said, "What a terrible thing to suggest, Michael. Is this what Angela told you when you talked to her on the phone? Is this her theory? You aren't going to answer the question?" "No, I'm not." They came to a long, slow curve in the road. Michael eased off the gas, but kept his eyes on Erica, hoping for an answer that never came. She stared out the window, her face defiant. He remembered that look, her refusal to engage or even discuss when they encountered problems. She tended to shut down and shut out, and Michael felt the frost in that moment. "Erica," he said. Then Tolliver was reaching over, his hands taking the car's steering wheel and turning it to the right toward the side of the road. "No!" Michael shouted. But the vehicle slipped from his control. It bounded across the shoulder and the berm, the tires making a grinding sound as they left the smooth pavement. In the headlights, Michael saw a flash of cornfield, the stalks taller than the roof, and then a wire fence just before the car smashed through it. Erica yelped in the back. The bouncing impact threw Michael off balance. His head jerked forward, making contact with the steering wheel. His foot scrambled to hit the brake. It missed once and then twice before he found it, before he managed to stop the car. But they'd gone 50 feet into the corn, the stalks to the left and right brushing against every window like taunting monsters. Tolliver pushed his door open and jumped out. Michael reached for him, came up with nothing but air. Then Michael struggled with his seatbelt, tried to unlatch it so he could move, but he felt groggy, dazed. He saw the open door, the space Tolliver had vacated. He said Erica's name, but she didn't respond. He tried to remember whether she was wearing a seatbelt. He did not think she was. She seemed to be sitting close to the driver's seat, leaning way forward to watch Tolliver. Michael felt tired. He let himself close his eyes. Just for a second, he told himself, "Close your eyes." Alright, I think that's a good place to leave off, even though I don't want to, but we are now on part 2 for night. And I really want to do more, but I'm exhausted. This Wayne Tolliver dude, he's very fidgety, wants to run, and now he just caused an accident and took off again. I think he has something to do with this, but I'm not 100% sure, to be totally honest with you. And it kind of freaks me out a little bit. We still have a very long ways to go, just so you guys know, though. Very long ways. But we're going to leave it off there, and I will see you guys in the next reading. Good night. Happy Easter, even though I don't celebrate. Bye.